right, welcome to another episode of Piecing It Together, the podcast where we take a look at a new movie and try to figure out what movies inspired it. And today on the show, it is a weird one. We are talking about the Zellner brothers' Sasquatch Sunset. This is a very unique movie, and I had so much fun with it. One of my favorites of the year, honestly. And I had a great time talking about it with Michael Keene, filmmaker, returning to the show. He's been on a bunch of live shows lately, but hasn't been on a regular episode in quite a while, so happy to have him back on one of these. And we get into a lot of great puzzle pieces here. A lot of stuff that I haven't seen, actually, that I'm really looking forward to looking up and checking out. But before we get to the conversation, I do want to remind you, as always, to make sure you're subscribed to Piecing It Together wherever you listen to podcasts. Follow us on social media at PiecingPod, and join our Facebook group, Popcorn and Puzzle Pieces, where we continue the conversation about all the movies we talk about here on the show. And with that said, let's just jump right into this conversation about Sasquatch Sunset. We're here to talk about Sasquatch Sunset. Joining me, I feel like he's been on a lot lately, although it's been years since he's last been on a regular episode of the show. Michael Keene is with us. How's it going, Michael?
It's going good. I'm having a hard time with there not being an audience to react to.
Yeah.
Who's
going to laugh and yell and yeah.
But then I think back to like the first couple times we did a live show, and I feel right at home.
Yes, absolutely, with absolutely nobody there, which we were covering your movie, but you know, we'll get you back for the next movie, hopefully. And
yeah.
Well, we are talking about this Sasquatch Sunset, which I gotta say, like, first of all, I loved this movie, and I reached out to you because I knew you loved it too. And when I first heard about it, and I heard out of the festivals, there was like all these walkouts, and like people talked about how crazy it was. It looked like one of those movies that was trying too hard to be crazy, and I was expecting not to like it. And then it just won me over almost immediately. What was your thoughts going into this movie?
So I didn't realize this was a David and Nathan Zellner film. They did Kumiko the Treasure Hunter.
Sure.
And I think it was Damsel
with Pattinson. Yeah.
And I was excited when I realized it. But at the time, I just went in thinking, oh, it's a fun Sasquatch movie. I'm sure it's directed by someone I know, but I wasn't really paying attention.
Mm-hmm.
And I immediately went to watch it when I could, because obviously this kind of film, you don't expect to be in theaters for very long.
Sure.
And yeah, I had a great time. I do wish I had watched it a little bit more sober, just for the sake of this, because I was not anticipating a podcast appearance.
Yeah.
But I was really shocked and surprised by the lack of humans, by the fact that there's no traditional dialogue. Was it like the Cave of the Clan Bear, or Clan of the Cave Bear, or some bullshit that had like almost no actual dialogue? It was about like Neanderthals or something.
I don't know. And I'm wondering, like, as we start going through puzzle pieces here, if you've got anything like that, because I'm sure I've got one on my list, but like, I don't know a lot of like caveman type movies, like look back at early man type of movies. And obviously there's gotta be some that have taken such a stark approach to like just kind of letting it unfold.
Yeah, I mean, I guess there's is it 10 million BC?
Sure.
With what's her face with the tits? Oh shoot, what's her goddamn Raquel Welch. The one with Raquel Welch from 1966. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I remember that. I feel like it doesn't have any traditional dialogue, but I could be wrong about that. But yeah, there's definitely been a few. I just don't recall them in my state of mind.
Sure.
Because I am your most often inebriated guest.
Yeah. Well, you know, I could have went and got a Sasquatch for this episode, but you know, I wouldn't.
You could have. Oh, I should have done that bit. That should have been my bit.
Yeah.
God damn it. That would have been way better.
Sure. Absolutely. Well, let's get into puzzle pieces. What do you have for your first one here?
Well, I would say this is one that I sort of cheated on, because I, again, didn't realize I'd be on a podcast, and I saw, I believe David Zellner, who plays I believe David plays the
It's Nathan plays the other one.
Nathan. Is it Nathan?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. Floop, the bigger guy. I always forget which one's which because they're brothers. But the bigger brother, Nathan, he had an interview where he talked about that Leonard Nimoy series In Search Of, and how that was a big influence on their love of Bigfoot, and I can't remember the name of the footage, but the footage that with the Bigfoot walking through the woods,
Sure,
and how that kind of turned them onto this concept and made them like huge Bigfoot heads. Like it's crazy to listen or to watch an interview of theirs or read an interview, and they know a shitload about Bigfoot.
Yeah.
Like they even the sticks against the trees, the pounding that they use, which I believe is them trying to call out to other big feet, other Sasquatch families, but none are out there because they're the last of their kind, presumably. And that comes from actual Bigfoot lore. I mean, I say actual Bigfoot lore. Shit the conspiracy theorists have come up with.
Sure.
As to what's going on out there. There's been like hunters and campers who have heard sounds like that. And so, of course, the only logical conclusion is big feet.
Yeah, of course, yeah. And once these shows start, like, yeah, it just goes so out of control, and there's like it just rolls like a big ball, just like gathering up every last little theory that they can, and it just eventually gets out of control. You see it with all these shows, and especially nowadays. Like, I mean, what is that, the 70s or something when that came out originally?
In Search Of? Yeah, I think that was like 77.
Sounds about right.
Somewhere in there.
Yeah, but nowadays, for the sake of content, they got to just add on. They have no choice. They got to keep these shows going for, 20, 30 episodes, a whole nother season, even though they've already told the story. So, yeah, they just got to keep adding on. But, yeah, no, great one to kick it off with. And I also want to mention Tom Biscardi is one of the guys who took that original Bigfoot photo, and he's a customer of my dad's over at Wax Trax Records. And
really,
yeah, that guy has some stories. But yeah, he swears up and down that that's what happened. It was all real and everything. You won't catch him slipping whatsoever. So interesting stuff.
Okay.
But I will go with for my first piece. I guess I might as well throw this one out there right away, because we're talking about when we first started about these early man kind of movies. There must be some of them, and the only one I could really think of was just from a few years ago, a movie that I love more than pretty much anybody, because nobody liked this movie, but Alpha from Alan Hughes. Is a movie that like purports to tell the story of the first time dogs and humans became friends, and it's basically a wounded human and a wounded wolf. They needed help from one another, and they make fire together, and they gather food together, and they survive. And then it turns into this whole adventure. It's a lot like Apocalypto. We did an episode on it, like first 10 episodes of piecing it together. Apocalypto was puzzle piece number 1, that's kind of the vibe it goes for. And of course the story itself is, bullshit. It's not how anything went down, I'm sure, but it is a really beautifully drawn portrait of early man. And, spoiler alert for Sasquatch Sunset, we will get into spoilers like we always do, but as we find out, this is not taking place, thousands of years in the past or anything like that. But Alpha does. Alpha is like, thousands and thousands of years in the past, and there's no dialogue, and it's a lot of grunting and a lot of survival. And this is a much more comedic movie, Sasquatch, but Alpha does kind of show just how difficult and awful, really, that life in the wild like that is, when you have nothing and existing in that kind of a world and that kind of a landscape. So, have you ever seen Alpha?
I haven't. I remember when the trailers came out for that one, and I was curious. Like, it definitely seemed a little hokey.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it seemed like a very novel concept, and I wanted to see it, but I feel like it came and went pretty fast.
It did.
I don't think it made much of a mark.
Yeah, it flopped pretty bad, and
You're saying I should see it?
I think so. I've always stood by it's a good one. I own it somewhere back there on the Blu-ray wall, but yeah, I think it's worth watching. A little hokey, sure, but I think it's fun and really well done. A lot of tension in there, but yeah. What do you got for your next piece?
I'm gonna say this is one that I have not actually watched in a long time.
Hmm.
So I cannot give a lot of details, but it's the first film that came to mind as I was watching Sasquatch Sunset, and that is Cry Wilderness.
Mm.
Now this is 80. Who's oh shit? I immediately forgot the name of the writer, but a guy who wrote like a lot of like really Philip Jordan. Philip
Okay.
Jordan wrote this film, and this was very late in his career. He died in 2003, but this came out. Let's see here, 1987,
All
and he
right.
had done like The Big Combo. He had, let's see, I'm just going to go to the Wikipedia. Estimated 100 writing credits since the 40s.
Mm.
He did Dillinger in 45, as I said, The Big Combo in 1955, which is a massive film for cinematography nuts.
Mm.
He wrote the film adaptation of Day of the Triffids in 62, which of course is referenced in the Rocky Horror Picture Show, so
Sure.
it's a very important film. And he even did the Fall of the Roman Empire. Like, he did a lot of crazy shit. And according to this, he was hired to make a Bigfoot movie in 1986. And he made it, and apparently he had to make it like a kids movie,
Mm.
and so he was really not in his element,
Mm.
because you'll notice none of the movies I mentioned
Th-
are
that
children's films.
Yeah, that is not a list that speaks to making family-friendly entertainment. Yeah.
And I love this bit of the Wikipedia. These restrictions resulted in the scriptwriter telling the distributor he would be writing a movie about nothing, to which the distributor acknowledged that is what they wanted.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I actually think, like, in a way that kind of works with what we're talking about, because in a way, even though this is a film about animals, about extinction, about humanity, about the family unit, et cetera, there is this prevailing sense throughout the film that you're watching really not a whole lot happen.
Sure. Sure.
You know, if you break it down beat by beat, there's a lot that goes on. There's a lot of tragedy. There's a lot of humor. And there's a lot of character on display, but it's really just bunch of hairy fucks walking through the woods.
Yeah.
It's really about it.
That's basically it. Yeah, they're hairy, they're horny, they eat a lot of stuff. There's a lot of eating going on.
The little one's real stupid.
Yeah, definitely. I was thinking while I was watching it, this movie, it's kind of a Rorschach test of like, what do you see in these creatures doing what they're doing? Like, is it good? Is it bad? Is it beautiful? Is it gross? Like, it's kind of a little of everything all at once.
Yeah, it's almost, I imagine, sort of the opposite of Alpha, in that it is not trying to be this like really special, heart-wrenching thing. It's a beautiful story. This is just how nature is, dog.
Yes, exactly.
And Cry Wilderness even has where this one has, I think, a mountain lion or a panther, whatever.
Sure.
I think it's probably a mountain lion because it's California.
Yeah.
And in Cry Wilderness, if I remember correctly, it is a tiger that is like on the loose, and the dad of the main child character is a park ranger going after the tiger. And then there's also Bigfoot. It's insane.
Yeah.
It's an insane film. Vinegar Syndrome put it out on one of their those I think volume 4 of their like 10 or 5 films compilation Blu-rays. And I highly recommend it. It's a real piece of shit.
Yeah.
And I love it so much. I need to rewatch it, obviously, because I'm not retaining a lot, but I had a blast watching it way back in the day. I think I want to say either MST3K. I think MST3K did it, but on the Netflix reboot, I want to say. So that might be an easy way for people to watch it, but I highly recommend it.
That sounds like something
it might be
they
a real
would
piece
do.
of shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, people might hate it. I don't know, because again, it's been a long time.
Yeah.
But that was my initial thought process.
Yeah,
was
that
Cry
one's going on my
Wilderness.
watch list. That sounds amazing. I definitely want to see that. I've already hinted at the twist here, and you just mentioned that it is California that this is taking place at, and as it turns out, again, spoiler alert, but this is basically just in the woods behind a big Bigfoot resort kind of retreat or something like that.
I think it's just, isn't it just like it's a museum?
Yeah,
And like,
yeah, where you go and like just like see what the environment might have been like, but they just happen to be living back there. That twist reminded me so much of M. Night Shyamalan's The Village.
oh,
Just the idea that these people, you think that they're, out in the middle of nowhere in some, far back in time kind of situation, and then it turns out, oh no, they're just out in the woods. So I wanted to throw that one in here. I thought it was a great
yeah.
twist, and I liked how they kind of slowly dole it out, where you realize like, oh yeah, no, this is not the past. Like you realize that fairly, like midway
You know,
through.
you say that, and maybe this is just me like being who I am. I didn't realize that was a twist.
Hmm.
I assumed from the outs, like when I think of Sasquatch,
Yeah,
I just assume modern times
that's
or
interesting.
close to modern times. Like I
Yeah.
thought maybe it took place in like the 80s or something, just based on some of the shit that they find later on.
Yeah,
But I just assumed that it was modern day and they were deep in the woods. I think part of that was because it was just them, and so there was this constant thing of they can't find anyone else of their own kind.
sure.
Obviously, that means they're the last of the Sasquatch,
Hmm.
and we're gonna eventually hit up against humanity at some point.
Yeah.
And it was really, for me, it was just a mystery of how they were going to do that.
Hmm.
But you're the second person now who said that that was a twist for them. So I guess I just happened to nail it on this one because
Yeah.
I think that actually that kind of made the ending. It made it feel kind of anticlimactic to me,
Hmm.
not in a bad way, but in like a subversive sort of way. In that it's all kind of leading up to this one shot of them in front of the Sasquatch Museum.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I thought that was very poignant. I didn't think it was particularly shocking, but I guess, just a sad, angry old man.
Well, I think you believe that they're still out there, and so
Oh yeah.
that's what it comes down to.
I choose to believe that these hairy fucks are throwing shit and fucking
Yeah.
right this very moment.
I like to believe that as well. Let's go to your next puzzle piece.
Well, I'd like to do an aside to yours
Hmm.
and say, because I thought you were leading up to Planet of the Apes.
Sure.
Similar idea of a twist there,
Yeah.
and a very important moment in history as far as makeup design, which you could then trace directly to this. It's interesting. I was one of the interviews that I read with one of the fucking Zellners was he was talking. Actually, it had to be Nathan. He was talking about the suit and how uncomfortable it was, but like they shot in like the fall in Northern California, so it really wasn't that bad, like temperature wise. But it was still like this rubber that was made with a body cast, so it was like very tight to them and fit specifically for them, so that it wouldn't like move, and instead it would be their muscles moving. And then of course all the fur, so it's still its heavy, fucking suffocating suit.
Yeah.
Which is pretty much what they had to go through on Planet of the Apes.
Yeah. Yeah.
I guess more so the remake of Planet of the Apes, because that one, like they really focus on getting like the eyes just right and making sure that you can get the performance through the ape costume, which is definitely one of the positives of the Tim Burton take.
Yeah.
But Planet of the Apes. I also this one's very minor, but the guy, and I want to actually get his name right, because if I don't, I'm going to feel like a piece of shit, because I can name everyone else in this movie. So Christoph Zajac-Denik,
Okay.
I want to say. That's how you say his name?
That's the baby one, I think, or like the youngest one.
Yeah, the little one.
Yeah.
So he is a shorter actor. Not a child. I don't know how old he is, but he's just a normal looking short dude.
Yeah.
And he was Ike the Spike in Twin Peaks: The Return, baby.
Oh boy.
And that right there, that's quality.
Yeah.
Twin Peaks: The Return, also a property, a cinematic triumph that purports to be something in its advertising. In this case, we have like a very, fun, quirky A24 style comedy, basically, is what we're guaranteed with Sasquatch Sunset. And then it goes and it does its own thing and gets real uncomfortable and features Ike the Spike, baby.
There you go. There you go. He's in there. He's in there. That's a great pull right there. I love it. And speaking of Planet of the Apes, I did have that on my list, definitely. And I also think, like, the most recent one, War for the Planet of the Apes, it goes in these long stretches of no dialogue where you're just seeing the apes acting and just being apes and communicating in their own way. And also a movie that I know we disagree on a little bit that we did a live show on just recently called Godzilla X Kong. But those sequences are some of the best parts of the movie, I believe, where it's just Kong and baby Kong just kind of existing in nature. And I would watch an entire movie if they did that, of the two of them, just Kong teaching him how to fight and all that. But yeah, just experiencing it with no dialogue. I love it.
I'll grant you this. If Godzilla X Kong, the new empire, if it had suits, if it had actual suitmation, or if they had nailed the CGI to the point that, like, I could not tell the difference or whatever.
Yeah.
I probably would have liked those sequences more.
Okay.
Or if they had put it in actual nature. Like if they had done like let's comp in this stuff, CG around it a bit so that it seems like things are actually happening.
So you believe in Sasquatch, but you don't believe in the Hollow Earth. That's what you're telling me here. That's not a real
Hollow
place.
Earth sucks ass. Hollow Earth can fuck off. I hate Hollow Earth. Not just as a conspiracy, just like as a location in those movies. Yeah. It is such a fucking terrible idea because it's like, these CGI characters who you can only really believe when we set them against actual environments and provide scale. Yeah, fuck all that.
Yeah.
I cannot. I also just hate that little fucking chimp piece of shit. I wish he had killed that fucking asshole. Also terrible villain. Oh,
I love him.
God.
I love the
anyway,
yeah.
But yeah, you're right. There is it's kind of a beautiful, clear contrast between like how to do it and how not to do it, because in this case we have like all this intention and thought put into these costumes so that we get the humanity and so that it feels like a real thing.
Yeah.
And then what you just brought up was a cartoon.
It was a cartoon, 100%. Yeah, I agree with that, even though I don't see it as a negative. But I will go to, since you just brought up Planet of the Apes, that was yours. I will go to, this is just a little one, but it is something I wanted to bring up, and that is Tenacious D and the Pick of Destiny, because there's an entire Sasquatch sequence, a whole song, a mushroom trip out, which the father Sasquatch does go on a mushroom trip out and ends up getting killed by the mountain lion we were just talking about recently. But there's a whole lot to that sequence that I feel like might have inspired this a little bit.
I actually wouldn't be surprised. In fact, I thought when the movie first, I eventually figured it out, it wasn't, but for a good 20 minutes, I was like, is that John C. Reilly as the dad? Yeah. I was like, it might be.
Yeah.
And that's just my bias as someone who watched Tenacious D and the Pick of Destiny a lot.
Yeah. Sasquatch
which, by the way, masterpiece of a film.
Oh, 100%.
If anyone out there has not seen Tenacious D and the Pick of Destiny, fucking turn off this podcast, delete it from your follows, in fact. Completely get rid of it from your life.
I think it'll count as a download.
Watch Tenacious D.
We're 20 minutes in. It'll count as a download. It's fine. You can, that's fine. What do you have for your next piece?
Well, another film that has, I think, no dialogue. I could be mistaken in that because it's another one. I haven't seen this since I was a child on like VHS, but it does contain a lot of animal death and a journey through nature, full of trials and tribulations, and not a whole lot of plot. And that is Milo and Otis, one of the most scar-giving films of all time, in which I think it was a Japanese production, I think, and they killed a lot of dogs and a lot of cats to make that movie. It is not a happy time, but it presents itself as a happy time, but it's not a happy time. And I think that is, again, like a nice parallel to Sasquatch Sunset. Probably not an actual reference point for the filmmakers. Although they are also the right age to have been scarred by Milo and Otis as children. Did you ever see Milo and Otis?
I feel like I did years and years ago, but I don't remember it if I did see it.
Lucky you.
Yeah.
I grew that and Homeward Bound.
Yeah.
Which could also count as a puzzle piece, I
Sure.
suppose.
Yeah.
That one obviously has dialogue, which... Wait, it does, right? Yeah.
I feel like it does. I mean...
Yeah, I remember, because when the one dumb dog gets all the porcupine spikes in his face, he's like mumbling and can't talk properly.
Yeah.
I love the... Like, I really enjoy those movies that are just following animals around.
Oh, yeah, totally.
And The Adventures of Milo and Otis from 1986, rated G. And narrated by Dudley Moore. So, okay, there was technically, at least in the US, there is a little bit of dialogue. Okay, so it has a narrator. It has a narrator, no matter what. Because there's also Shigeru Tsuyuki was a narrator in the Japanese version, directed by Masanori Hata. Who just died in April of last year.
Oh, wow.
So good for him. He also directed Little Nemo, Adventures in Slumberland.
Nice.
And that's it.
Oh, wow.
That was his 2-movie run. There's
Leaving
also like
mark.
this 1973 thing, but yeah, that was just creating nightmares for children. That's his whole thing.
I kind of want to watch that now, because I do love that when movies just follow animals. I was also thinking of Isle of Dogs. It wasn't like one I was going to bring up as a puzzle piece, but just movies where it's just you're seeing animals, and a movie that gets animals and just how weird they are. Because animals are
Watership
very weird.
Down, Plague Dogs, stuff like that.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, right on. Good stuff there. I'm going to combine two. And because they're the same director, the Daniels, I'm going to go with Swiss Army Man and Everything Everywhere All at Once. Everything Everywhere All at Once, I don't know what it is, and maybe this is kind of like weird or out there or whatever, but I was thinking of the rock scene, like the scene with the 2 rocks just sitting there talking to one another. For some reason, the like randomness of that, the like, isn't this weird, kind of like sense of humor of it. Like it just reminded me of that a lot. But then it also reminded me of Swiss Army Man, just like all the weird shit that could happen in nature does happen in nature. And, the main Jesse Eisenberg character, definitely feels, of a piece with, Daniel Radcliffe and Paul Dano in that movie. And just like that strangeness of like, being totally out of your element, but that is kind of your element at the same time. And Swiss Army Man's a movie that I love. I'm a little mixed on Everything Everywhere All at Once, but definitely the sensibilities, though, I think line up between those 2 movies and this one.
Yeah, I could definitely... This feels like a slightly more reserved Daniels movie. It feels like they made a slightly more independently minded film.
Sure.
Almost.
Yeah.
And gosh, what was there was like this thing with like kind of spinning nihilism and kind of humanism in both of those Daniels movies.
Sure.
At least, especially Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Yeah.
I haven't watched Swiss Army Man in a few years. And also Poop in that instance. There's a lot of scatological and farting.
Yeah.
I wish there was more birth in both of those. I would love to see Paul Dano give birth, but
I'm sure Paul Dano would love to see himself give birth in a movie. He would be so into it. He would love that. Let's go to another piece. What do you got next?
Well, this one's pretty... I'm going to do another twofer because this seems like one of them's just an obvious throwaway. Harry and the Hendersons.
Sure. Yeah.
This is like if you grew up loving Harry and the Hendersons, but you've turned into a jaded millennial, or whatever. This is the movie for you. But also The Curse. It's technically a show, but it's basically just a big movie.
Sure.
It's kind of like Twin Peaks: The Return in that way. But the Zellners directed, I want to say, half the episodes.
Yeah, I think
could be mistaken.
It's 4 or 5. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And it's more of a Nathan Fielder,
Safdie.
Ben Safdie movie.
Yeah.
but it definitely still has their mark. You definitely feel them being a part of it, and they're both concepts that rely on a very, very simple narrative, and really drawing everything out of that simplicity. And I thought that was, as soon as it ended, and I saw the Zellner's names, I was like, oh,
Yeah.
yeah, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I would say that The Curse is definitely far and away better than Sasquatch Sunset. I was much more fulfilled with that, but that was also like 8 hours of TV.
Yeah, I mean,
So
yeah, The Curse is absolutely phenomenal. I agree with you there, and I love Sasquatch Sunset, but yeah, that is an incredible show. And yeah, I think the nihilism of both projects definitely fit together really well, and like just the sheer like stupidity of everything that is
yeah,
kind of a light is being shined on with both of these projects.
yeah, that one's more centrally about humanity being dumb,
Hmm.
whereas Sasquatch Sunset is kind of partially a parallel to humanity's own stupidity, but also just like, hey, animals.
Yeah,
We're all animals, and we just want to fuck and
fucking
eat
eat. Yep.
and play around on logs.
Absolutely. My last full piece is too new to be a genuine, influence on this. Other than again, I guess what you just brought up, The Curse, would be as well, and also features Emma Stone. It's Poor Things from last year. I wanted to bring it up because I think, in a way, it is, a good companion piece to this movie, even though it's very different. But they are both movies about kind of everything, like everything just kind of mashed together. It is about, the good that makes up life. It's about the bad, the gross, all the horny stuff, the weird shit, how stupid everything is, how terrible life could be at times. And Bella Baxter learns about all of that throughout her journey. And you are kind of like, as the viewer, are kind of thinking about all of that as all this shit is unfolding in Sasquatch Sunset. At least that's how I viewed the movie. I was just seeing just a little bit of everything, all the good and bad in what's happening in those woods with these Sasquatches.
Yeah, it's like it's very much aping like those nature documentaries that try to take sort of, it provides a story, especially if like you watch like the Disney ones.
Mhm.
There's usually like Koba sees his prey and knows that his family is in danger, or some bullshit
Mhm.
that they just make up out of in the editing room. Uh, and what's great is like you kind of get this sense of life in a microcosm.
Sure.
And Poor Things is, it's a very more specific elements of life.
Yeah.
Uh, Whereas Sasquatch Sunset's more like broad strokes,
Mhm.
what we are all like. But they both get down to the core, what makes a person a human and what makes a person an animal, what is innate to us, what is just bullshit.
Sure.
And yeah, there's definitely, I feel like that's very much a product of our time as well. That's something that we keep seeing a lot more is everybody's just having existential crises
Yes. Yes.
again and again.
Yeah. Yeah. It fits in with a lot of things that we're watching lately. So, yeah, that's my last real piece. Do you have any other pieces you wanted to bring up?
No, I'm sure if I had more time, I probably would come up with something. But I think we had some pretty strong puzzle pieces.
I think
in
so
there.
too. I think so too. I'll read down the list. We talked about.
Oh, Caveman.
Oh,
With
I've never seen that.
Ringo Starr. Is that right?
Yes, yes, yes.
Just throw it in there, just for fucks and giggles.
You know what? While you're
I
at
don't
it,
have anything to add.
While you're at it with Caveman, a movie I've never seen before, but I was thinking about because I've always wanted to see it. Quest for Fire with Ron Perlman. I think that's also.
I think that's what I was thinking of.
Oh, really? Okay.
Was Quest for Fire.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's one that I really want to like kind of go watch after having seen this, but I'm sure it's a very different tone. But just to see like another version of that, of like seeing this like early man, primitive kind of person, just existing basically. But just to read down our list of pieces here, we talked about In Search of, Alpha, Cry Wilderness, The Village, Planet of the Apes, Twin Peaks: The Return. We threw Godzilla X Kong in there as well. Tenacious D and the Pick of Destiny, Milo and Otis, Homeward Bound, Swiss Army Man, Everything Everywhere All at Once, Harry and the Hendersons, The Curse, Poor Things, and then we just mentioned in passing Caveman and Quest for Fire, which I kind of want to watch both of those, to be honest with you. But any closing thoughts? Anything we didn't quite get into you wanted to mention here? I'll say actually, Riley Keough is crazy in this.
Oh my God, she's a superstar in this movie.
Yeah.
She that's another thing I really loved about the film is like how much it's like, man, am I right?
Yes.
Because it's just this poor broad just trying to keep things together.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just one goddamn problem after another that she has to fix.
Yeah, of course.
And eventually it's down to just her and this little fucking moron who, even like when he gets a chance to finally do the right thing and like complete his arc, completely fucks it up.
Yes.
The fact that they spent so much time to make sure that their expressions came through and that their eyes were very visible.
Sure.
It's so important because she nails it every time, and you can really feel again that fuck me mentality. And I love that. I love like the moment I was referring to with him failing at his arc when she finally gives birth. And a moment that leads to the film really fucking with us hardcore. Because like I thought they might kill the baby. Like there was a very strong chance of that happening. So when it was like this potential, I was like, this might be happening.
Yeah.
This could actually be the case.
Yeah.
Because I thought they were going to just kill all of them by the end of it.
Right. I did too, actually. Yeah.
Like it just seemed like there's no way that they don't end up all dying, like one for every season or something. But oh, you know what? Just to fuck with the algorithm a bit, I'm also going to say Jess Franco's female vampire, because of the lack of dialogue, and the fact that there's so much fucking.
Sure.
I really just want to put a Jess Franco film on your list.
Yeah,
there,
you usually bring one, I feel like.
It features a lot of walking in the woods, often with a lot of hair showing.
Yeah.
Specific mounds of hair. And and for listeners, female vampire is about the world's hottest vampire ever who walks in the sunlight because Jess Franco always follows OG vampire lore. None of that Nosferatu bullshit. And she sucks the blood out of people's privates. So a lot of, and I don't think you ever see anything outside of her hairy bush, but there's a lot of just like draining the life essence out of people's dicks and pussies, and it's great.
Sounds like
highly recommend.
One. Yeah,
get it through. I think Keene has it through their whatever their fucking horror sublabel is.
Right on.
Yeah.
Nice final piece to throw in there. I love it.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah, hell
that's some Michael Keene touch, baby.
Wrapped it up well. Michael, is there another movie you watched recently you'd like to recommend to our listeners?
Another movie I watched recently, I just watched, and this is actually gonna be shocking for a lot of people who know me. For the first time yesterday, I watched Possessor, Brandon Cronenberg's Possessor.
Okay, all right.
And that shit is legit.
Yeah.
That is, I feel it's one of those, you know how like there's those movies that you feel kind of intimidated by, and so you put them off again and again because it's like I need to be in the right moment.
Yeah.
I need to be able to just sit down and watch it, and I finally did that, and holy fucking cockbags, is that a goddamn great film. I think it definitely has some problems, but it is. Have you seen Possessor?
Oh yeah, I actually think he is 3 for 3. I love all 3 of his movies. So,
oh yeah, Infinity Pool. As long as you are someone who wants Mia Goth to sit on your face, Infinity Pool is great. If you're the opposite, you might have a bad time. Yeah. But yeah, he fucking keep pushing him out, bro. Greatest nepo baby of all time.
He really might be. Really might be. So Michael, you are starting another podcast, right? You're starting something new?
Yeah. I just started another podcast. I've got a few in the works, but this is the first one that we're actually recording and putting out there. It's called Go Make a Movie. And it's me and a girlfriend of mine, Cherry of the Mouth, who is so called because she's really fucking loud. Mainly. And we it's all about the process of making a movie. Episode 0 was us basically just fucking around and like figuring out our dynamic on the mic. I definitely there's a lot of quintessential me going way too long on a subject and being too stoned to like reach the fucking point. But it should be a lot of fun. We already have, I think, the concept that we're going to go with that we came up with in episode 0. So episode 1 will finally start, or we'll start with like structuring and doing spitballing ideas. And in theory, if this works, it'll go all the way through to actually making a movie.
Nice.
And it'll become a podcast about like, oh, well, this week during production, we did this, and this was the headache, and this actor's a piece of shit.
Yeah.
And I don't know why he wouldn't get hard, and blah, 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 blah. And so that's exciting. And you can find that on my on Spotify or wherever the fuck you get your podcasts. And there is the edited video version on my YouTube channel, which you can just search Michael Keene, and that'll pop up for you.
Beautiful, beautiful. Well, Michael, it was great getting you on one of these regular ones, and I look forward to getting you back on again soon for the next live one we're doing.
Yeah, stop leaving me out in the fucking cold, piece of shit.
All right, so I hope you enjoyed that conversation about Sasquatch Sunset. Thanks to Michael Keene for joining me on that one, and thank you to all of you for listening. If you're enjoying piecing it together, of course, make sure you're subscribed, but also maybe drop us a little 5-star rating and review wherever it is that you're subscribed, whether that's on Apple Podcasts, Good Pods, Spotify. It helps make sure that more people check out the show, and we'll keep doing more of the live episodes, more all kinds of episodes. We have a lot of episodes on the way, actually, so make sure you're subscribed, and that way you'll find out about all of them as they come. You can also follow us on social media at Piecing Pod and join our Facebook group, Popcorn and Puzzle Pieces, where we continue the conversation about all the movies we talk about here on the show. Aside from that, we do have a Patreon I want to remind you about. The Produced by David Rosen Patreon, where I post bonus and advanced content from piecing it together, from Awesome Movie Year, and from my music career. I've been out of town at the time of this recording, so I haven't gotten a chance to add some of the recent recordings on there, but I got a whole bunch in the can that I just got to edit up, and then before they eventually make their way out to the main feed, time to VOD releases or streaming releases, or maybe when the film gets hit to Netflix or wherever it ends up next. In the meantime, you'll be able to get it early on the Patreon, along with a bunch of other great stuff, plus video versions of some of the episodes, including this one. So check it out if you want to support the show. I appreciate you being out there listening, commenting, sending in your puzzle pieces, sharing. But if you want to support the show monetarily, you can do that by subscribing to our Patreon. It's patreon.com/bydavidrosen, and I do appreciate it when people do that. Let's see, what do I close this one out with? I always close out these episodes with a piece of music, and you know what? This movie being about weird, crazy animals in the night, Sasquatches, as it were, I'm going to do one about my little crazy dog from our comedy album, The Pup Pups Variety Snaps. This is kind of a Halloween Pup Pup song called Little Bad Wolf. It's absolutely ridiculous, and I hope you enjoy it, though. The album is out now, and we'll be back with more piecing it together real soon.
Something straight out of nightmare or a dream. And honestly, not even sure if you's a dog or a cat, but you're adorably cute, and I'm sure about that. Well, I'm a little, well, I'm know you love me, I'm your buddy, I'm your good little pup. But if you don't give me a snack, oh, I'ma eat you right up. Well, I'm a little, well, I'm mad. Well, I'm a little bit bad. Well, I'm a little bad, little bad wolf. Well, he's a little, well, I'm a little, well, he's a little, well, I'm a
An All Points West production, produced by David Rosen in Las Vegas.